And okay.
So, Yelena is our amazing volunteer who joins speaking clubs, and she has a degree in business psychology and extensive experience volunteering in Europe and back in her country, in Serbia. So, we are really happy that she was eager to do this presentation for us and share her experience after participating in the speaking clubs and sharing her ideas, thoughts, how to make it more engaging, what tools we could use, and try to upgrade our overall experience. So thank you, Yelena, for joining, for preparing presentation. We are really excited to participate and hear all what you have to say and share with
Oh,
us.
thank you so much. Okay, so I'll get to screen sharing then so that we can like see the presentation in full.
Mhm.
Um, okay, share sound, we don't need it. And yeah, okay, that should be it. I guess everyone is able to see it, right?
It's opening, yeah. Are you
Okay,
streaming?
okay,
Mhm.
nice.
Yeah,
Like
it's
the
on.
internet is a bit
Mhm.
slow, but I guess it's going to be just fine. Okay, nice. So in short, the topic of today is the lesson gamification or like game-based learning that we can include in our workshops that we do with Ukrainian children and how to use some digital tools and so on. So I know everyone who's here today has applied for the workshop or has joined because they're interested in the topic and you know what it's all about. Um, but before I get like to introducing myself further, because you guys already like did it in the chat, I'm just going to share with you like what's exactly what we are going to talk about today. Even though these words, gamification, digital tools are generally very self-explanatory, but let's see exactly what we have for today. Oh, it's a bit sorry a bit slow, the presentation. Okay, there it is. So let's set the tone for today. We are going to outline like what places the games and digital tools have in our workshop in general. So we are talking about this context when you are doing the speaking clubs workshops with the children from the ages, let's say, of generally it's 11, I guess, until some 17 years of age, I think that all of us so far have had. Because gamification can be done like in many other circumstances in your workplace, for example, in office, in some meetings, but we're not talking about that aspect today. We're just focusing on what we can implement in our workshops in particular. We are going to the positives, point out the positives and negatives. Um, the positives are, I think, pretty much known to everyone, like the fun aspect of it, the educational aspect of it. But today, I also really want to tell you some things that I've observed working with children and how some of our like good intentions can produce not so good outcomes if we're not careful about certain things. Like it's nothing to scare you off. It's just like to something to pay attention to. Um, we are going to try to figure out for you how to get the right method of gamifying your lessons, although the right method doesn't really exist in and of itself. It's just like adjusting the material to your needs and goals, to the children's needs and goals. But let's try to go briefly over that too. And hopefully at the end we will have like the dedicated Q&A time to have your questions and ideas, to discuss your ideas. If you have some practical examples, something that you've been thinking of introducing in your workshops, something that you are worried about, like that's all fine. If we don't get the dedicated Q&A, I still encourage you if you want to share something while I'm speaking, like during the workshop, to do it. Because I know sometimes, like if you wait for the Q&A at the end, the thought will slip you. So I encourage you, like, still to just ask if you want to discuss something in the meantime while I'm going through the slides. And if not, feel free to try and wait for that time at the end. Okay, so moving forward, it's The next slide, I actually wanted to, oopsie, why did it skip so far? Sorry, I accidentally did it. Let's go to, okay, this one. For some reason, like I cannot do it through the keyboard very well, so it keeps skipping. Okay, there it goes. So a little bit about me for someone who doesn't know me here. I think a few people do because we've been on workshops together. But once again, officially, hi, my name is Jelena and I come from Serbia. And as Elena has shared with you already, I'm in business psychology, that is human resources. Although I really love my job, it's just that the way to still like do these creative things in human resources and not to do it like with corporate people in corporate environments is why I do work with children. First of all, because I like children and education with them, but sometimes you can really like implement the things that you are familiar with from psychology and from human resources into like your educational activities with the kids. So I like to do that, especially volunteering. I've been volunteering for about 7 years now, 7 to 8 years. And I've been working with Ukrainian children from 1 to 2 years, I think, since 2023 in different projects. And as for working with Go Global here, I had one wave of our speaking clubs, English speaking clubs. And we have new people joining in. That's cute. That's very nice. I just wanted to ask you guys, some of you have already written in the chat, like where are you from? Because I'm interested, not just like statistically, because I would need it. It's because I'm really interested to know where you're from. And can somebody please tell me if you've already had your speaking clubs? Like any of you, have you already had your workshops with Ukrainian kids?
Okay, guys. So for those who already took part, you could just unmute yourself and share with us so we get to know like what's your background, what's your experience.
Yeah, sure, sure. You can do it like that too.
Carla?
Mhm.
I'm originally from New York City, fun fact, and I am a Dutch citizen. I live in Europe now, and I spend maybe a third of my time in Ukraine doing various projects. The one that I love the most, of course, is Go Global, and I love being with my kids and doing stuff.
Carla,
Yeah.
one a second. Maybe it's better if you unplug the headphones because we can't hear you clearly right now.
Very strange. I'm going to reboot my microphone. I know.
Mhm.
Or maybe you can just check the settings, audio settings in Zoom because microphone settings is really tricky.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
Yeah,
hard.
it
Is this
always
better?
is. I agree. Yeah, when I try to use it too. Although I can hear you clearly, it's very like quiet, I guess.
Yeah, it's a
I
bit
think,
like
yeah.
low.
Okay, give me one moment here.
Yeah, I think it's already sounds better.
Okay, there we go. Oh,
Yeah, it
moving
does.
right. Thank you. Fun fact, I'm from New York City originally, so multinational community, multicultural, and I'm a Dutch citizen, so I spend about a third of my time in other European countries, including Ukraine. And I'm a Podil resident, so that means I'm a legal resident of Ukraine. And I love doing different projects in Ukraine in various areas, including tech. But my favorite is Go Global, working with the kids. I just love it, and I wish I could just do that and not worry about going out and getting jobs and things. They're so boring.
Me too, really. Like sometimes all of these volunteering experiences are just
I
like
know,
so
right?
inspiring and just really the best, aren't they? So like
Absolutely. Oh my God.
I would love to, especially since you get to do like all the nice things, like the workshops with the kids that you create. Like if I were a teacher, a regular teacher, I would have to abide by the curriculum. And here I just think of things, right?
Exactly. I'm not a trained teacher. I never took any education classes, but I had great teachers, great role models. And so I look at what they did and I compare what they did and walk into a class full of kids and just assess and determine, like, right now, hit the ground running and decide what's the best approach. And that I used to be in consulting, and that was a great strategy for consulting too. The clients are smiling and the boss is smiling. So
Excellent.
I don't really, it's funny, I work in tech, but I don't know the tech in the classroom stuff because I never had it.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable with it, so I've never tried to use it. Like sometimes the teacher wants to do a Kahoot or something.
Yeah.
And that's nice, but I always let somebody else do it.
Okay. Yeah,
But
I
I'd like to
understand.
learn.
Yeah, not everybody's
I gotta learn.
completely like, yeah, not everybody's completely comfortable with like doing it themselves. But I think it's always nice to be like to be introduced to the concept. So if somebody else has to do the actual clicking and designing, it's fine. But as long as you know how to like implement the idea of including digital tools, I think it's very beneficial for the educator too. Okay, thank you so much, Carla. Is anybody here, like anybody else who has the experience of working with the kids in the speaking clubs? Or like everybody else is a newbie?
No, I think Onya and Ataf and Ruslana, they for sure
Oh,
took part.
okay, good. Okay, good. I'm just asking because like I'm
And
curious.
Lorato.
Yeah, if somebody else has already like gone through to this point like of creating a workshop and thinking like, oh, how to make it super interesting? Should I include a game and stuff like that? So I was just wondering
Mhm.
because of it. So if anybody wants to share at any point, you feel free to. Okay, so we're going to move forward with the presentation. Okay, and we're just going to quickly run over the basic terminology, although again, like I said, the words themselves are pretty like self-explanatory. So gamification, we actually when we say gamification, we think about two aspects or two processes, let's say. So it is the integration of the game elements. Like it says here, for example, some leaderboards, like ranking from the first one or giving the first, second, and third place. So engaging those things in your activities with the children. But that's where the like gaming thing ends. So you only like introduce these elements um, in order to maybe make them more motivated to work. If you can imagine a child, for example, given a task, and if you tell them, oh, you can like place first and get like a virtual trophy, then maybe they will try to like do better. Maybe they will get competitive with their peers. So like in the basic sense of it, gamification is actually only that, just like giving one element or a few elements from the gaming world to make the classical process of learning and doing tasks more interesting. And now game-based learning is actually what we are focusing more on today, although these terms are used interchangeably. And that is actually involving the purposefully designed games into your learning experience. So it's like anything you wanted to introduce as a concept and new information or check with your students, you are doing it through the games. So actually, when we say gamification, most of us who are working again in human resources or like working with the kids a lot, we actually more so think of this second concept where we want to really like make the games one of the central points of the workshops. And for digital tools, again, it's like the websites, applications, platforms, anything that can provide you with some gamifying element. They are there to enhance the communication between the students and you as a lecturer, to make you feel this greater connection. We're going to talk about that in a second. And of course, one thing that I always like to point out is that the games themselves are very, very important in non-formal education. You can introduce them in formal education, and I know Ukrainian teachers do, like in their actual classes, they do. For example, Kahoot, Carl has mentioned, one of the super popular games to include in your formal education. But in non-formal education, they're very important because non-formal education text tends to be a bit less structured. It is like more, let's say, liberal with the approach to learning. So including games, it really makes it stand out and makes it a favorite among like kids and adults alike. If you're choosing some things to get educated on in your free time, like outside your school or like regular academics, it is like usually the exciting workshop gaming style that you are going for. Okay, so that was like the super official part. Now we get to the practical examples. So I tried to here like outline for you some of the subjects of gamification. I of course have to say this, but I'll probably just say it now and not for every slide, but you can consider it I think for every upcoming thing that I present. It's just you will always have to check the mood of your group. You will always have to compare it with your own goals. So everything I say is like just a proposed idea, like to get you into working and creating. None of this is like end all be all. Like if I say only these aspects are to be gamified and none other can be, like that's obviously not the true. I'm just making suggestions, and you will always be able to like think for yourself, is this something that's going to work for me? Is this something that's going to work for my group? And so on. So for the aspects and processes to gamify, as I see them, it's, for example, good to gamify things where you discuss interests and hobbies. For example, you can introduce a one of these things. You have them online, like they're basically mood checkers where you like check in with your mood, like with an emoji or something. So you can, instead of just checking mood, like how people are doing today, you can apply it and say like, oh, choose an emoji which represents your interests well, and then let's talk about it. So then they go, like they can, I don't know, they can put like a little tea and a little book. That means they're enjoying spending their time just, having a me time with like tea and a book and so on. So for discussions about interests and hobbies, I like to gamify them in a different way because otherwise I think we all go on a rant just talking about things we like, which is great. But when you have like 15 students, not everyone will get the time to talk so much. So maybe you want to just put that little simple game, like express it in emojis first, and then like share in 1 or 2 sentences. Or like give us a clue by giving like 2 words about your interest. And then the kids might not say book, they might say fantasy. So you have to think, oh, is it watching movies or is it like reading the books? So you'll be surprised how creative the Ukrainian kids are. Maybe they will sometimes like they surprise me in a way that they made the game like 10 times better than I intended it to be. So be ready for that. They're like very witty and clever. I would also recommend next introducing the games when you are trying to introduce new information. For example, the aforementioned Kahoot as a quiz. You can do a Kahoot I did about your country. So for example, for Serbia, I made questions. It's like some of the simple ones, like what is the capital? And then you have 4 cities. And then somebody knows that it is Belgrade. Some kids do not know, but it's just the opportunity to learn, right? Because when you give a wrong answer in Kahoot, it also gives you what the correct one was. So that's a way like to introduce some new information, or like if you want to present some other aspects of your country or culture. Some of my questions were like about popular sports, like I think one question was like which team sport is like the most awarded, has most gold medals in Serbian history and stuff like that. So you don't expect like a random 10-year-old in Ukraine to know that, but they're going to learn. It's new information for them, but it's presented in a like super interesting way through a quiz. So that's a definite recommendation from me. Then the brainstorming activities, even though brainstorming by definition is just like throwing, as you know, like throwing out information and seeing what sticks to get new ideas, you can also gamify it. You can give them a Padlet. Some of you have probably heard about this website. Oh, I just remembered. I'm going to share like a document with you at the end. I think that would be nice, like a link, because I have the document of the platforms I use with my kids in the workshop. So I can share the document with you. I think you will just have all of the links of the things I'm mentioning. So that would be nice.
Cool. And
Okay.
we could send it in the chat
Yeah.
as well. Yeah,
Sure, of course. I think that would be nice because I just realized I'm mentioning all of these platforms and I'm
yeah,
not
people would want to know which one. Yeah.
exactly. I will like about some of these, and maybe I will like share some of my examples now, but not every. So okay, for Padlet, for example, like you can give them, it's like a whiteboard, like the one you would have in these meeting rooms. It's just like a whiteboard where you put sticky notes with your ideas. So it would be, for example, quicker, more efficient, and more interesting for the kids if they were to write their ideas on these sticky notes and have them like so everyone can see them on their screens rather than unmuting themselves, saying the idea, talking over each other and stuff like that. It can be a bit chaotic. So for example, for brainstorming, even though it doesn't have such a definite form as an activity, try to give it a little gamifying element too. It's going to be, I think, very efficient. Okay, and for the language learning activities, it's again pretty self-explanatory because everything you're talking about in your workshop with the Ukrainian kids is a language learning activity because you're going to speak in English and you're going to ask of them to be speaking in English too. But I mean more so if you want to introduce this some interesting elements that they might not be learning in their regular English classes. For example, I did this thing where as a challenge or punishment, let's call it, but it's a challenge after like losing a previous game. Some kids had to do the tongue twisters, so like saying some things in English like super fast with like complicated words. And it was, of course, very hilarious. It was actually my intention. I was hoping some people would fail the given task so we can do this challenge of tongue twisters. And they liked it so much, so everybody in the end did it. Like even the ones who completed the task initially and didn't have to do the tongue twisters, they did it because it was very fun and interesting. So my point is like you can do that too. You can find some interesting element of the English language which you think is usually not taught or not taught so much or so extensively in their regular English class. And then you can try to make a little fun game out of it. I also recommend here, for example, you have them if you just Google like roll a dice, and then the Google will just give you, a little window to roll the dice or flip a coin. So you can like decide who's going to do, I don't know, this or that many tongue twisters or other things, or like who among the two kids win this round or getting an easier one, a more complicated one. So like these small bits, which are not games in and of themselves, but just aid your mission of teaching them some new language skills, are also a recommendation by me. And just quickly, some aspects to leave in a more free form. Doesn't mean you cannot gamify them or some aspects of them. I'm just saying like it's nicer for most of them to be left in a more free form. It's discussing feelings, some deeper impressions, some personal stories that the kids want to share. For example, you can start off as I did for one storytelling activity. I gave them pictures, maybe like some 20 pictures, and there were 15 kids, so they just had to choose one the pictures were actually like paintings or illustrations, similar to Dixit cards, if you're familiar with them. And then they had to like choose the one they like and tell a story, a personal story, which has at least some elements from the card. Like the reason they chose a certain card was because it reminded them of something from their life, from their childhood, from something they're currently doing or interested in. And that was an initial gamifying element, right? Giving them just the illustrations to choose from. But once they did, that's where it all stopped with like gamifying this activity. The rest of it was just the kids just telling whatever was on their mind and their heart, explaining why they chose the illustration they chose. And then they went on, for example, a lot of them chose something that reminded them of their childhood. So they would just go and tell you about what exact pie that their grandma made they still really like or things like that. So there's no need to like include other complicated gamifying elements into it. It's much more enjoyable and it serves your purpose of the speaking club to just let the kid speak about um, what food from their grandma's kitchen they still like the most. And it's pretty much the same for any other things that your students wants to share. For example, you're talking about something and then they remember, like, oh, I also like, I don't know, it also happened to me once. If I'm sharing some story, they say, oh, it also happened to me once. So try to create that atmosphere with your students where they want to speak freely, obviously, want to speak freely with you. And then just let them do it. You can guide them once or twice by asking the question, oh, why is that? Like, oh, really? Did you enjoy it then? Did you not like it? Was it stressful? You can aid them in telling their story, but try to for that to be like the only element of interference on your part. Otherwise, you can let them just talk in free form. Okay, and then we go, I think, to like the most important aspects of the presentation now, and that is the benefits and the threats of using the games or gamifying your learning activities. We've mentioned some of the benefits, and I'm sure you are mostly like familiar with them already. With gamifying your lessons, you get better engagement with the kids. It's simply put, it's more interesting. It's much more interesting than this kind of frontal education, right? When I'm speaking, and then the kids would be just listening. Through the games, they simply engage. It's extremely fun for them. Then it leads to more quality communication with you because they want to, if they're enjoying the game, they're not going to be the ones with like the muted mic for the whole hour and a half. They're going to like come with their own come up with their own ideas. They're going to like try to like interject with something like cute and witty and nice to comment on. They will want to participate in the game, share their results, and so on. If you, of course, give them interesting things to do, they will also, I can freely say, like you more. So they will want to communicate with someone who is like ensuring they have a great time, right? I also put like this thing of easier approach to some more complicated topics. Like I said, it doesn't have to be something heavy, but when you want the kids to like explore their feelings a little bit with the workshop or such thing, try to start initially with the game or like with this thing that I did with the illustrations they chose. So like give it that little element and then try to let them like speak with minimal guidance. Or I can give you another example of a very fun game we did, which like transitioned into talking about feelings and impressions, but it was still a game. For example, every child, not every child, we made the groups. So like, let's say 3 groups of kids got 3 questions by me. So one group would get the question, why did the rabbit paint their ears blue? Like something really silly, you know? Why did the rabbit paint it blue? Why was it not the yellow paint, and why, I don't know, why did it eat the blueberries at the end? Like something that sounds completely silly, but is supposed to like engage them into giving their creative ideas and creating a story. So that thing is also a game. You giving them some questions. In my case, it was completely random. It was supposed to be very silly, and they came with first like silly stories, and then they tried to explain how the rabbit like was feeling insecure and shy because the friends didn't like him very much and thought him weird. Everybody had the yellow painted ears, but he wanted the blue ones, and like they made this whole cute story. Like it was pretty convoluted, but it was still nice. So what I'm trying to say, like, um, if you are going to explore some topics, if it's on your agenda to have the kids like talk about some maybe a bit more touchy subjects, or like something that they do not open up easily to when talking to strangers, try to introduce it through the games. And in the end, they will be much more willing to give you feedback in the first place, and the feedback you get is going to be like super nice, at least it was in my case. And like you will see it at the very last workshop you do with the kids of your group. It's going to be like super emotional. There were no tears in mine, but like there were almost tears when I was wrapping up with my previous groups, because everyone was saying such nice things about how the workshops meant a lot to them. And now for the threats. Again, some are super obvious, some slightly less, I'd say. So the basic threat, and this is really important for me to talk about, is us, the educators, the lecturers, right, relying too heavily on ready-made digital tools. For example, if you're going to do the quiz, the one we mentioned a few times, Kahoot, it's a platform which lets you create quizzes. You can go creative with like the question, with the picture you put, but that's pretty much it. The platform does the most of the job for you. Like it calculates the results, it makes the leaderboard and stuff, and that's okay. Like that's what it's like expected if you're going to a platform for making quizzes, like to do the most of the job for you. But try to not rely like super heavily on these platforms where it's like perhaps I could show you later when like I exit the platform and show you some more examples of what I used with the kids. But I made this like I went to this website where I made this board game. You know, the ones where you like roll the dice and then you move your like little whatever these like player things are called in English, and then you get the mission and stuff. So I made the whole workshop in the format of that. And it was nice because my group was very accepting to it. And I was confident in it because I had the experience of already having 3 workshops with this group. And I knew it was going to work for them because we discussed it previously. But at some point, I realized that I'm not doing much in this workshop. All I'm doing is like clicking, rolling the dice. And the children are taking care of the rest, which is fine, which is completely okay. But sometimes you might not want it to be so, right? Maybe for that particular day, you were planning on having like very, I was about to say heavy. Heavy is not the right word because it sounds negative. Like having like abundance of interaction with the kids, talking and stuff. So if you are relying too heavily on a like ready-made digital tool, you're really limiting the options. First of all, for yourself as a lecturer and potentially for them, if the digital tool itself doesn't encourage them to speak further, to share like some of their experiences and so on. So I like explain this in a very convoluted way, but like the whole point of it is like it can limit you a lot in like genuine like interesting interaction with the kids. So try to be careful, try to compare the digital tools when you find like super cool, like let's say 5 websites that you're considering to use for your next workshop. Try to think about it, like try to conceptualize it in your head what the workshop is going to look like, especially if you already had a workshop before with a group. So you can imagine, oh, this kid is probably not going to engage so much. This kid will only like try, or like these 2 or 3 kids will only like concentrate on winning their game and like making the process quick and cutting my time to interfere too short and stuff like that. So try to think about those things beforehand. Nothing you do will ever technically be wrong. Like we're just here trying our best for the students as volunteers, but like try if you can to conceptualize some of these things beforehand. In the same vein, it's like you're going to miss out on some great things the kids were going to say, some things that they might have proposed as ideas for continuation of the like second part of the workshop or whatever. So like try to not, when you once find like a super nice digital tool or game to play, to not be overly focused on it. Or like if you planned, that happened to me also before, I planned like 3 little games for the workshop, and the kids liked the first one so much and had so much to tell after playing it that we didn't even get to the second one. But that's fine. Like be ready for such things. The most important thing for you is like to make this interesting and engaging for them. I know that's why we all are here. And for them, it's also the most important to be given like space and the opportunity, the context where they can freely enjoy and learn like that. And as the very last one of the threats, and I think the most important in like all of my speech of gamifying and like making your workshop super interesting, is that you can overwhelm your students. Not everybody has the same English level, not everybody is extroverted, and that's fine. I like to think that no child was made like forced to join the workshop by their teacher. I think everybody is there because they really want to participate in the speaking club. But even then, it doesn't mean that they can always give it their 100%, nor should they. They can get really tired. Like here now today, like I have to talk a lot, for example, and I know it like takes a lot of attention on your part to like follow me, to follow my ideas, the flow of this presentation. Now imagine it like for the little people who are like 10, 12, 13-year-olds, and they really want to listen to you, they want to engage, and everything is perfect until they just feel they don't have the energy to do it. Doesn't mean they're completely like shutting you off, that they don't want to speak to you. They just get tired and overwhelmed. Maybe it's too many games. Maybe it's like too much talking. Maybe it's like too much, too many expectations put on them, like what they should do with this one, how they should perform. If you suspect that your kids might experience these things with some, let's say, more complicated game that you've taught for them, try to make a disclaimer before you start. For example, if you are my students now, and now I'm opening up a game, like trying to set up something, I make this little disclaimer of saying, okay, if somebody does not feel comfortable doing this or that part, you don't have to, or like try to do this and that. But if you cannot like follow through with it until the end, it's fine. Make sure that they know it's fine for them to feel overwhelmed at some point. Usually, as students tend to be, plus the Ukrainian students living in the conditions they are living in currently, I would be overwhelmed 24/7. Like, I'm not sure how. I like to believe I would be joining workshops and moving on with my life the best I can, but I cannot guarantee you that for me personally. So it's already extremely great that they are there. Now it's up to you to make it the most comfortable for them, and trust me, they are going to collaborate with you. They are going to give it their best to respect your ideas for the workshop, but just try to put yourself in their shoes, if that's possible even, and think, okay, at some point, this child just might need to lean in their chair, like stare at the ceiling or do something and stop with my game, and he'll be back engaging in like 5 minutes time. So manage your expectations and make sure that the kids know it's fine to like take a step back if needed, because overwhelming someone is not something you like to do in everyday life anyway, especially with the kids you're trying to entertain or like provide a nice and comfortable environment for. Okay. And now let's get to like we're closing we're getting closer to the end of the presentation, but now we're also switching up to a bit more practical part where I want to give you some proposed criteria, some criteria I use when I try to choose the games, and we will try to show some examples of the games later, but some criteria that I use when I'm deciding what games to play, or any other aspects of the game. How long the games should be, like how many games, how often should we play them, and stuff like that. So obviously we want to take into consideration the age of the students and their English level. Sometimes the group has more or less even English level. Sometimes there are kids who like completely excel because they're also taking like private English classes and stuff. And there are students who know only the basics, but you can rely on the teacher of your group to just let you know beforehand, before you even start your first workshop, what the English level is and what the kids are comfortable with. The same goes for their usual learning style. The teacher can help you a lot with that, a lot, saying like, oh, they're used to doing the quizzes. Like, oh, they like really like when I do this and that. They find it hilarious when we when we open this website and do this and that. Or they're not used to using digital tools, but I asked them, they're super open to the idea. Or like, not many of them like to always be asked to do stuff, like do tasks through the games. Maybe you can try like to incorporate this other thing. And then the teacher says, we like to do only storytelling, for example. And then, okay, for the first workshop you do with your group, try to rely on the storytelling because they like it, stuff like that. The availability of the technology. Not all of the platforms which are available in your country, for example, are available in Ukraine. Usually they are, but like try to figure it out with the teacher too beforehand. And also the accessibility of some platforms. It's not always ideal for all of the kids. So you might not be able to figure this out before the workshop starts. But if you see like some hiccups in this aspect of using like the technology on the kids side, try to dial it down. Try to change the concept quickly if you can, like trying to find the workaround, or if it's fine with you, if it's fine with the kids, abandon the idea like completely and try with something new. Also, when you're looking at the criteria, you want to know your goals for the day, what you wanted to do with this workshop anyway, what you wanted to achieve. And it's super nice, if this is not your first workshop with your group, to take into consideration their previous feedback, which of course requires you to hear feedback from your group after every workshop. So try to do that. It will be very, very nice. It will be beneficial for you too. Okay. So here are like some other additional tricks. Let me check the time. Okay, we're good. So here are some more little tricks. They're not practical tricks, but it's some advice I'd like to give to you. If you're dividing your students into groups, and I recommend it because sometimes it's like it would take so much time. Like imagine there's currently, the banner is not showing, but there's how many of us currently in the meeting?
11.
Yeah, okay, 11. So let's say like about 10 people, like without the lecture. And you have to do like a certain task for everyone. Like everyone has to take the quiz on what their spiritual animal is. that's okay. Like they're going to take it at the same time, and then you're going to continue with your game that you based on this like spiritual animal identity. But if it's a game which like for example, one part of my game, I'm not going to go like into the whole concept, but it was like reading poetry. The kids choosing Ukrainian poets and their poems and reading it. So try to like figure out if you really have the time for all 10 kids to read something, if you're creating activities like that and games like that. So try to consider it. If you cannot make it, take them and make them into groups, right? So let's say you have like 10 kids, you can make them even into 3 groups, okay? So it's going to work like nicer for you. The second one of my favorite ones, obviously, is directly reference Ukrainian culture. For me, it's super fun and super easy because Serbia is a fellow Slavic nation. So it's like we have a lot of things in common. So I take great advantage of that. Like I make a lot of games with a lot of references because I know it's fun for the kids. So I would like make this game with like, I see a Serbian word, you try to guess what it is in Ukrainian, and stuff like that. English then and like explain it, or like some traditions and festivals and stuff we have in common. So I take full advantage of that. If you're not like so culturally connected to Ukraine, it's fine too. Like you can still make some really, really great references. If you explore just a little bit about the cuisine, just a little bit about the literature world of Ukraine, a little bit about national symbols, like you don't have to do like whole master thesis research about it. It's fine. Like you can just from the internet find these tidbits about Ukrainian culture and include them. And first, the kids will be very grateful. They will appreciate it and they will find it easier to connect with you and engage in the activity if you revolve it around something that's very familiar to them and very dear to their hearts, right? Also, I had this very interesting activity where I wrote like a document with a few sentences for like northern, southern, eastern, and western Serbia, like as if I was presenting them touristically, like interesting points to see in all of these parts of Serbia. I wrote it in Ukrainian with the help of the Google Translate, of course, but I wrote it in Ukrainian. And then the kids were supposed to like choose one, not tell me which one they chose, or not tell the rest of the group, and explain it in English. So they were like reading in Ukrainian, but explaining in English. But they were also, the topic was Serbia and Serbian tourism. So it was also one very, very successful activity. The third one, decide if you really need an actual presentation like this one I'm holding today. Perhaps you don't. Perhaps you're going to free-form talk and you're going to use a few platforms from the internet here and there, but you don't need to make an actual PPT. So like it takes time, as you know, and effort. So try to consider if really for the particular workshop like that you have that week, do you really have to make a PPT? And of course, as I mentioned a few times during this, my whole speech through this presentation is be ready to give up on some of your ideas if you don't see them working out as well as you expected. It's fine. It's not your failure. It's just the circumstances. So just abandon the idea altogether if you have to, or discuss with the kids at the very moment as you're doing it and you're not receiving like they're not giving you the clues that it's going as well as you expected. Just ask them, okay, would you find it more interesting if we did it this way? Or like, would you actually enjoy it more if we like skip this step and do this or that thing instead? They're going to appreciate it a lot because you're asking their opinion and you're respecting the fact that they might be bored or like not interested or it's tough for them to follow and so on. So yeah. Okay, so now we're going to go to also like the last thing that I have that I can talk about in this presenting style to you, and that is what's happening on the lecture side. on our side, because like the whole presentation, this whole talk today is me talking about like, oh, so the kids would rather like this. Try to think about what the kids are going to feel. But what about us, the lecturers who are putting in so much effort? First, try to appreciate your own excitement and determination and the commitment you show for this workshop because you're really giving it your best. It's your free time that you're volunteering to this cause. You're going to ride on this excitement and like make interesting stuff for the kids. So it's nice to give yourself a little pat on the back, like for the job well done. It's going to be challenging in a way that presenting stuff to kids, especially if you don't have so much experience in working with the kids, is going to be tough for you. Sometimes you don't know what to expect, how they will react, and so on. It's going to be tough, but most of the time, it's just going to be well worth it. You're going to put in the effort, it's going to pay off. So in the end, you're going to like repeat the cycle because you're going to enjoy your time with the kids and at the workshops. And regardless of how tough the process gets, you're still going to want to continue with it. And as the third one, you remember when I briefly spoke about overwhelming the kids with your activities, but it's fine to remember that sometimes you can be overwhelmed too. It happened to me when I was playing that board game with the kids, as I've mentioned, because it was me who was rolling the dice and like keeping track of like the points. And the kids were enjoying it so much, like they couldn't wait for their turn to be next, for the dice to be rolled. Everything was great. And my mind was all over the place. I was constantly fearing, did I skip someone? Did I roll twice? Oh no, but they would tell me if I rolled twice. So my mind was going like at super speeds. And outside, I asked the teacher about this later, and she was like, it was great, it was fantastic, everybody was enjoying it. So I'm glad it didn't show, but my mind was so chaotic. And I was like, I'm not sure like if this game is working and what's not. But apparently it was great on the kids side, but try to consider your mental strength when creating workshops too. Like something that works great for them might not work as great for you, and you don't have to sacrifice everything into making a great gamified workshop. Like it's fine. You can pull the brakes for a second. It's okay. Okay, and we are now, I think, about the time where we are wrapping, up. But if you want to, I would like to dedicate Q&A time, and then I will forward the little document I made for the kids of the materials I used in our workshop, so you can have it too, or I can like screen share some if you really want to see some in particular. Otherwise, the presenting part of the workshop is done here. So Q&A time, if you want to share any.
Yeah, we had some questions in the chat box from Ronald. He asked, how can educators balance game-based learning with traditional teaching methods to ensure students stay engaged without becoming overly dependent on games? I think you covered that.
Yeah, mostly.
Yeah.
But I want to say, like, you're always going to be obsessed with that kind of balance thing. Like, sometimes it's a very valid question. I always think about it. I mean, I made a workshop about it, so like it's on my mind all of the time. But one important point, I think you're trying, to put yourself in the kids' shoes to like imagine how they will receive this information that you're giving them. Is the balance okay between the games and more traditional frontal techniques of education or lesson facilitation? But my advice, I guess, is to lean more on the fun game part because it's the extracurricular activity for them, like it's outside their school hours. So try to lean more into the fun part, but also remain aware of of the fact that the kids still see you as a teacher of some sorts. Like you still are some kind of, figure I don't know how to call it, but like, like somebody they know they have a certain distance with, not in the negative level, not in the negative way, but on a level that they have certain respect for you, and not just expectations, but like whatever you do, it's always going to get like +5 points in their eyes because you're the adult, you're like providing them with fun time and nice education. So like try to remember that too. Like whatever you do, and here I try to recommend leaning more into the game side, the kids are going to appreciate it, and it's never going to have this critical reception as much with the kids as much as it does like in your head. We tend to get like really obsessed with this stuff when the kids are like mostly fine with it anyway. So yeah.
Great. So we have one more question. What changes in your approach would you apply, I guess, when kids are just tired, especially when they had alerts the previous night? So yeah, in our situation, the kids, as you mentioned, it's like tough being a student in Ukraine. So how do
Yeah,
you?
it's tough putting it lightly. It's tough being a student in Ukraine. So that's the thing. That's also a very, very good question because, as you all know, just like personally, your deduction, and also we mentioned this always for every, I think, speaking club. Our coordinators here, Dasha also likes to mention it because she has, of course, the experience that the war should never be a topic of our workshops or any of our discussion within the workshop. We can't reference the war, and we should not like reference any of those things like alerts and like stuff which are very heavy for the kids. But you might want to take this approach. They put it well, like how do you adjust your approach if you knew that was happening like last night a few hours before like the power outages or something. Try to, again, you have to put yourself in their shoes at least slightly. Try to think about their emotional state. As you said, they are overwhelmed and tired. So try to approach it as you would with any tired and overwhelmed kid. I think that's the first, like the most important thing, to treat the Ukrainian children as the children they are, as the students they are. So like try to imagine how you would approach a child that is tired and not so willing to engage. In practical sense, you can do it like this. You can start with the idea, or like how do I say this? Like you can guess that not everyone is going to be tired and completely overwhelmed, and some are going to be super active. So try to engage those kids more because they kind of pull the group up, they pull the mood of the group. If somebody sees their friend being super engaged and being able to, for a slight moment, forget about the bad things and engage more, they're going to, try to get closer to the mood and energy levels of their friends. If you are totally seeing, and you can see it in the kids' eyes, that they're just like, they really cannot pull it off. They want to, they come to this workshop, but they sit there and just like, they cannot follow. You can just lead them. You really can lead them. You don't have to specifically ask them anything, really anything, because I think they mostly appreciate like to be left alone and just engage on their own terms. You can also, like, if they do something, if you have an activity which does not how they say, which does not require them talking too much, but doing that kind of sending emojis or like making a comment, and you see the kid whose face you're seeing and it's like completely somber, but they did the task, you can try and dedicate the time to praise them a bit more. Still not mentioning, oh, you look tired, even though you're not engaging at all today, you did this task. I mean, don't do that. But just like specifically try to praise what they did. Or like specifically say, if everybody is saying funny things or like sending funny emojis, I'm doing this example with the emojis, just try to say like that something is particularly funny about what they did, like, or I don't know, or that it's particularly cute. Or if you remember something they did last time when they were full of energy and engaging, you try to make reference to it, or like, this cute bunny, it's so nice and cute, just the way you were super cute when you were telling me about your grandma's pie last week. You can make those cute little references. Try to remember what your kids were like previous week, the previous times you had with them. And if you cannot rely on any of that, go back to the first step that I've explained on just like counting on their friends to lift the mood. And the kids, if they want to, they will follow. I'm trying also to see the chat. Do we have any other questions?
No more. People are saying it's great presentation. They love the design.
I should
And
exit so I can also see sorry, like
Yeah.
I'm not looking at the questions. I should exit the full screen, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess we all are also excited to see the list of the like tools that you mentioned. So
Exactly.
see if some could be useful for the speaking clubs.
Let me just, I'm going to, I think it's here because I can also show you like what it looks like. I'm going to copy the link and share it, of course.
Yeah.
Let me just, I have so many like Google accounts that I'm never sure. Okay, it's there. Okay, so I'm going to quickly share one more aspect, which is like also a gamified, let's say, experience. And that is I make this Google Drive folder for my school. I sent the folder to them when like the whole cycle, the wave of the speaking clubs is done. And it contains a lot of materials that we made together. It contains the list of the games and platforms, and like a little bit, if they want to know like a little bit about Serbian culture, I make some cards always. And I make this not bragging or anything, but I just want to show you that it's also an example. I make this little name cards with the kids' names, the teachers' names also, but it's in Serbian. I think our friends here who who read Ukrainian, you can definitely recognize the names,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But let's take this example. So I like make it's like the double card thing. One contains their name in this upright, I don't know what to call it, as font, and the other one contains like a picture from Serbia, the explanation, and like their name in cursive. So you can make like cute small things as like little reward for your students, even when you are finished with the wave, sorry. Okay, stickers and tongue twisters, we have it all. And this is the links to online materials. So I'm going to see if I can share it directly from here. Yeah, oh no, it's already sharing for everyone. Sorry, it's shared with the students. Okay, I'm just going to copy the link. Okay, and go, go to the chat and provide you with the link. So there it is. So you can have it. These are the materials that in particular I was using with this school from the Kherson region. But it's most of the things I've already mentioned to you today. So you can go look at it. It has a little explanation on what platform does what. And yeah, that would be it. If you want, if somebody needs, I can also share the Canva presentation as PDF file, like in the chat on
Yeah, please do share.
Okay.
And yeah, we could also share with those in the chat.
Yeah,
Yelena, you've got a fantastic list, just read through it, and wow, there are some tools I don't know. I would like to explore them.
That's
And
great.
it's really great collection from all the social and emotional check-ins, plus some gamification on the sport, and all these helpful tools for Venn diagram. And
Yes.
wow, my respect.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
It was a really great presentation. Thank you so much for raising up such important questions and all these tips and tricks. Thank you really so much. It's priceless. I
Yeah,
do
thank you.
appreciate it.
It was cute, and I hope everyone else here. I know we all have like different profiles. Some of you were sharing like you come from like complete like not humanities, like it's tech, it's something, it's consulting, you come from these areas, try to think of some like techniques and methods that you use for your work and just spin it a bit into this workshop style with the kids. For example, Dasha has just mentioned the Venn diagram. I'm sure, or diagram in English, I'm not sure, but yeah, you're familiar with the whole thing with like the overlapping circles. Maybe it's not something you would really think of as a workshop material, but the way I used it is like I gave the kids a little homework. Surprisingly, they were very, very happy to do the homework. It's like to choose one famous Ukrainian person, famous for doesn't matter what. Like, so we had activists, we had artists, we had scientists, and everyone. So we had like 10 to 15 of them, and then we were placing them into like three groups in the Venn diagram. For example, trying to what they have in common. Like, let's try to first like separate them maybe by the time they were like active in, then by their the subject of their work, or like by their popularity in modern Ukraine, maybe. So stuff like that. Like you can really come up with amazing stuff for with some unexpected techniques if you want to. So yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Such an informative workshop. I really enjoyed it, and the way you presented and all the information and your tips, I loved it when you said about reading the room, right? So it's one thing to have like lesson plan ready, but then you have to come to the class and see how the kids are. Maybe they are like tired, they didn't sleep at night or whatever. So the activities that you planned might not be acceptable at that moment. So you have to think on your feet and maybe change something. Feel the mood of the kids and adapt your activities. I think that's important. And
Flexibility is a survival skill of any teacher. Just believe me.
Yes.
Alena, sorry to interrupt. Sorry, but it's yeah.
I would have to agree. Yeah, exactly. I would have to. It's very important. Just think about it. Again, we have to think about some aspects because these kids are, well, kids, but try to think of it as like if you were going to go for a coffee with your friend and you're sitting like face to face at the table, and you're just like you're talking to them and they love you and they wanted to come to this coffee to you, but you're seeing like in their eyes there's something off. And if it's your friend, of course you're going to ask them, oh, what's wrong? Should I like go up and beat someone like who hurt you? But you're not going to have that kind of communication with the kids. But what you can do is, again, read the room as you've mentioned, and then try to slightly adjust what you're doing, and like rely on other kids to like pick up the mood and so on, the things we spoke about. So yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you everyone who joined. Thank you, Yelena.
Exactly. Thank you so much.
And thank you guys for being with us and devoting your time to the Ukrainian students. It's a great support at times like we have now. So there is no small contribution. Everything counts. Really appreciate you and love you. And thank you for being with us.
Yeah, and one more thing, of course, because we are all like the volunteers of the same group, of the same organization here. If at any point you would like to like contact me with a question regarding this, or you think I could provide some more resources, there's a lot of us in our chats, like on WhatsApp and stuff. So if you cannot like find me, if you're confused about it, then please reach out to our coordinators. They're going to just connect you with me if you remember something else you want to ask me regarding this or something else. You just feel free to reach out personally to me. You can do it, of course. If you cannot find me directly my contact, you can just do it.
I think you can just share this like the presentation
and I can share the presentation, then you'll have my
people
contact
can
too.
see you, and you offer
can
that if they have
solve it.
additional questions, so they could reach out to you.
Exactly, always.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you again so much like for coming here. I hope also the people who will be watching the recording are going to find it useful, and yeah.
Thank you, Yelena. Thank you, guys, everyone. Wish you a peaceful and a lovely evening, and we stay in touch. Hopefully, see you.
Thank you, Alenочka, for organizing such a cool event, because you have done a lot for this great volunteer community, and you really make it better, guys. Just believe me, Alona is our volunteering superstar.
Oh, thank you. Dasha, you
And
also.
you are the best as well, dear friend. Thank you. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for accepting and considering the ideas you have learned here today from Yelena and during our other workshops. I hope we will survive. Yep.
You will.
All the challenges, and we'll overcome any issue. And with your help and support, it's really like a dream. It's like a really helpful plan. So thank you for being and staying with us.
Yes,
Of
thank
course.
you. Thank you,
Always.
guys. Take care of
Thank you,
yourself.
thank
Thank
you,
you for being
everyone.
there.
Jelena, Alina,
Thank you.
and Dasha.
Thank
It was
you.
really wonderful to listen to you.